Vice Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Mark Ferguson, says the Navy will be increasing its forward presence around the globe in the coming years. He made those remarks during an all-hands call on board USS George Washington at U.S. Fleet Activities Yokosuka, Japan.
We're operating forward around the globe. Within the next year or two, we will move 4 destroyers to Rota, Spain, that will be stationed there for ballistic missile defense. You've seen LCS operate in Singapore, and we'll have 4 ships there within the next few years operating and rotating their crews. In the Middle East, we have pushed the USS Ponce, an amphib that we've converted to be in a float-forward staging base. And with it, you'll see our first directed energy weapon put on that ship and tested in the Middle East. We're testing railgun, and imagine the potential of shooting down missiles with an electromagnetic gun that shoots a projectile where you don't have to store powders in your magazine on a ship anymore.
Admiral Ferguson also said the Navy is working to deploy unmanned vehicles from submarines in the future as well.
The U.S. Navy faces many threats. One representative threat is unmanned aerial systems, or UASs. Conventional weapons such as missiles and projectiles are important to ship defense, but they're expensive, limited, and require time to engage a target. High-energy lasers augment conventional systems by providing speed-of-light engagements with reduced collateral damage at tactically significant ranges, with cost savings realized by minimizing the use of defensive missiles and projectiles. The Naval Sea Systems Command's Directed Energy and Electric Weapons Systems Program Office, or PMS 405, is investigating the use of high-energy laser systems on Navy surface ships. One such system is the Navy Laser Weapon System, or LAWS. The Directed Energy Warfare Office, or DEWO, of the Naval Surface Warfare Center in Dahlgren, Virginia, is the technical direction agent for LAWS. NSWC Dahlgren has been performing laser research, development, test, and evaluation for decades. LAWS is a system under development that tracks targets and engages them by combining 6 high-energy lasers into one powerful beam of light. The current LAWS prototype consists of the laser sources, power systems, cooling units, sensors, tracking and control hardware, and a custom beam director on a Kamito mount. The mount moves the LAWS beam director to keep the laser pointed at the target. LAWS is planned to be integrated with and complement the capabilities of the Mark 15 Close-In Weapon System, or CWIS. CWIS is a computer-controlled, rapid-fire, radar-guided 20mm autocannon that shoots at close-in air and surface threats. CWIS was developed by the Program Executive Office for Integrated Warfare Systems, or PEO IWS 3BC, along with its prime contractor, Raytheon Missile Systems. In 2009, LAWS was tested against UASs in a desert environment at the Naval Air Warfare Center in China Lake, California. A team of scientists and engineers from NSWC Dahlgren, Computer Sciences Corporation Innovative Science and Technology Experimentation Facility, Pennsylvania State University Electro-Optics Center, and L3 Brashear set up and operated the LAWS system and instrumentation. The CWIS was not part of this test. The UASs were launched and flew a realistic flight pattern for engagement by the LAWS system at tactical distances. The test at China Lake was a complete success, locating, tracking, and shooting down 5 UASs at different ranges. Each of them caught fire, lost control, fell to the desert floor, and crashed, causing complete destruction of the UAS. The test demonstrated the capability of the LAWS system. In 2010, LAWS was tested against a threat representative UAS target in an over-the-water combat representative scenario at San Nicolas Island, California. This remote island, about 60 miles off the coast of California near Ventura, provided realistic and challenging maritime conditions. During this test, LAWS was connected to a CWIS system which provided designation or initial pointing data to the LAWS system. Scientists and engineers from NSWC Dahlgren operated the LAWS system and instrumentation, while CWIS was operated by Raytheon. the UASs were flown over the ocean for engagement by the LAWS system. The test at San Nicolas Island was also a complete success, locating, tracking, and destroying 4 UASs. These were the Navy's first detect-through-engage laser shoot-downs in a maritime environment. LAWS program manager Captain David Keel said, "The success of this effort validates the military utility of directed energy weapons in a maritime environment. Further development and integration of increasingly more powerful lasers into LAWS will increase both the engagement range and target sets that can be successfully engaged and destroyed." Other targets were also successfully engaged during the San Nicolas Island test. The highly successful tests at China Lake and San Nicolas Island show that LAWS is a capable, effective, and accurate system in both desert and maritime environments. The next step is integrating LAWS with a ship and the CIWS. LAWS is also a low-risk, high-payoff technology. It's the Surface Navy's first tactical development for fielding of a directed energy weapon system. LAWS represents a game-changing technology that will provide Navy ship commanders with a new weapon that has nearly instantaneous time of flight, a deep magazine, and the ability to conserve defensive missiles and projectiles for use on other targets.
100,000 BC, stone tools. 4,000 BC, the wheel. 9th century AD, gunpowder. 19th century, Eureka, the light bulb. 20th century, the automobile, television, nuclear weapons.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted. It belongs to the brave.
Everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use.
People want their technology to have a sense of humanity. They want it to understand me, you, specifically.
To solve the grand challenges, the rate at which the technology is getting faster is itself getting faster. To a point that we have the potential to create a...
Because it turns out that the digital technologies that so delight us and brought us so much abundance in terms of information and new ways to communicate, new ways to share ideas, well, those technologies also have a dark side to them. And we're going to take a look at that tonight. It turns out that these technologies are in use around us right now. For instance, you're probably familiar with the idea of a hacker who might be going after your password to your social network account, or maybe your credit card information, or something like that. But it turns out that they have a convention in Las Vegas, yes, just like any organization, the Black Hat Conference. And in 2011, just a couple years ago, one of these hackers presented a paper where he proved that he can actually wirelessly hack into an insulin pump or a heart meter and actually hack it from a distance. In a way, he could send a jolt to that person and commit the perfect crime by killing him in a way that would be totally undetectable. That's a scary thought, and some of the manufacturers are already working on cloaking technologies to prevent that from happening. Just last week, the National Intelligence Estimate was published, and this is a document that details how China has a massive sustained campaign underway right now to hack into multinational corporations. And as it turns out, more than 50 corporations are under almost constant assault in this way. More than 50 corporations per week are hacked into at an average of almost 2 times a week. Their internet defenses are successfully penetrated. So this is a real present threat that's happening. And it's not just the overseas threats that are happening. This technology is starting to pervade our life. It's becoming actually scarily commonplace. There are already companies, retailers, that are experimenting with cameras that'll track you as you walk into the store, and they'll compare your face to face images that have been tagged on Facebook. This facial recognition technology that's so prevalent, not just on Facebook, but also Apple and Google and other companies have promoted. And that's not all. Some companies are starting to use this in a way that I feel is almost unfair, where in a job interview situation, a corporation may demand that you relinquish your Facebook credentials or your Twitter account so that they can get a better understanding of your habits and how you communicate and who you're connected to. And that's a little bit Orwellian, I think. And perhaps most creepy of all, just this last week, Raytheon, a major defense contractor, announced a new program called Riot. It's the Rapid Information Overlay technology. What this allows them to do is assess in massive scale people's behavior in social networks so that they can predict future behavior. And this starts to take on a kind of creepy sci-fi theme. Now, some people feel that privacy's over. Just a decade ago, the CEO of Sun Microsystems, Scott McNealy, said this. He said, "You have zero privacy anyway, so folks, get over it." That's the world that he envisioned. One of the most renowned security experts in the world, Bruce Schneier. Bruce, welcome to the show. Right.
These cyber attacks, well, you know, there's some kind of stuff going on that involves militaries.
And it involves nations in some respect, and they're spooks, you know, so in a way it is kind of a war, but it's a shadow war.
I mean, my fear is that we're in the early years of a cyber war arms race. That there's a lot, and not just China, the U.S. too, NATO, other countries, we're pouring a lot of money into cyber attack, cyber defense. It's a huge growth industry.
That's true.
There you go. Something what we were talking about was how to encourage OCS arrangement using the weapon zones. All right. So if it was a 155, it probably wouldn't be.
I was actually going to come over here and say, well, they have chocolate.
Right. That's great. We have no chocolate, but we do have some lasers here.
Okay.
Can I answer any questions for you?
Sure. Well, tell me about your laser.
So this is a system that we put together with internal funds. Paul Shattuck's group is in charge of this. We took a commercially available laser and combined that with beam control. A lot of that is derived from the Airborne Laser Program, and put this together in a system that can counter rockets. We've got a video over here showing a rocket that has been launched. It's similar to a Qassam lightweight rocket, and we engage the thing at about 1.5 kilometers away and track it, keep a small aim point, keep a small spot on that rocket, and burn through that and cause it to deflagrate, to basically blow up. And so it's an excellent system that demonstrates the capability to defeat rockets. As we go to higher power, they can be used against artillery, mortars, things like that.
What about personnel?
No.
So you're not going to use directed energy weapons on people?
No, we're not.
There's no applications for using directed energy weapons on human beings?
Nope.
Nobody. Not even
that I know of.
Not even your competitors, maybe?
Not that I know of. No, definitely not. So most of I think basically all the applications that we're focused on, that we're looking at, are all defensive. So the things that we're concerned about are mortars, unmanned aerial vehicles, missiles coming in at ships, things like that. And so these are great targets for lasers.
Deployed on multiple missions, facing imminent threats from determined, sophisticated adversaries. The United States Navy demands leap-ahead capabilities to maintain strategic and tactical superiority today and tomorrow. General Atomics introduces the Blitzer electromagnetic railgun, a new way to accomplish multiple missions now and own the battlespace far into the future. delivering more than twice the muzzle velocity of today's gun technology. The impact of the projectile destroys the target, giving new meaning to the phrase, "speed kills." The railgun is a multi-mission weapon system for ship defense, anti-surface warfare, and long-range naval surface fire support. Anti-ship threats are rapidly evolving and proliferating. Today, the Navy employs a layered defense, utilizing missiles for long-range defense and conventional propellant guns for close-in threats. The railgun counters new threats to protect the airspace in depth with unprecedented effectiveness. It complements defensive missile systems by providing greater standoff ability, dramatically expanding the inner tier of defense. A round can reach the horizon in just 7 seconds, performance that's not achievable with current systems. At the horizon, the round still has greater velocity than a conventional gun has at its muzzle. The railgun essentially moves a ship's point defense out to the horizon. Able to engage more targets simultaneously, the railgun can even defend against airborne threats at high altitudes. The sheer speed of the railgun's kinetic projectile reduces the threat of maneuvering cruise missiles, and advanced airburst munitions provide increased range and probability of hit and kill. Difficult to detect means difficult to defeat. Firing a high-velocity round with a small signature, the railgun delivers enough kinetic energy to disable critical mission systems, taking the enemy ship out of the fight. At the world's largest electromagnetic test facility in Dahlgren, Virginia, General Atomics is providing pulsed power to support testing of the Advanced Containment Launcher, the nation's next-generation gun system. It will deliver a 110 nautical mile range capability, providing a quantum leap in long-range naval surface fire support toward the Navy's ultimate 200-plus mile objective.
Science fiction meet military fact. The U.S. Navy is boasting that it now has a huge technological advance in airborne technology. A prototype of the drone-deflecting laser is being deployed on a docking ship in the Persian Gulf. This laser is capable of turning UAVs into fireballs and rendering enemy patrol boats useless. Take a look at this. The laser can perform two main tasks. One is burning a hole through an enemy vehicle with ultra-hot, ultra-focused beams. The other is a non-lethal burst of energy that will literally dazzle the adversary's computer sensors to stop them without actually causing them any physical damage. This technology is a game changer, folks. The Congressional Research Service Office says that it is the biggest Navy advance since the shipboard missiles came into play all the way back in the 1950s. But there are two important issues to address here. First is the fact that it is actually being deployed to the Persian Gulf instead of anywhere else in the world. Second is the American dominance over the skies. To talk about that and more, I'm joined now by Alexandra Toma. She's a nuclear non-proliferation expert and a Truman Fellow. Thank you so much for joining us. So first off, let me just ask you straight up, how big of a deal is this technology?
Well, as you mentioned, and as the Congressional Research Service report mentioned, it is a game changer. What I will mention, though, is that it is a prototype as well. This is the first time we're pioneering this technology, and so it remains to be seen how effective it will be.
Okay. Now, is this a change in pace in the way that the U.S. is currently dealing with Iran? Up until this point, it's been diplomatic sanctions. There hasn't really been any kind of strategy in terms of military physically. So is this a change of pace?
I don't think so. I think, again, we need to sort of see what happens and what the reaction is from Iran, obviously, to what to the laser. But I think this introduction of this new laser is not going to shut the door on diplomatic efforts, nor should it. I mean, we should have, and we should be pursuing all types of relationships and relationship building with Iran.
What kind of a message do you think that this type of laser entering the Persian Gulf actually sends to Iran?
Yeah. I mean, I think it sends a message saying, look, we're not going to allow you to sort of use your swift boats to come close to us and sort of, play with our ships like they did back in 2008. You remember that incident? And so it's more of a defensive measure. I think it says, hey, don't do that. We're here. We're serious. You can't mess around with us.
And as you mentioned, back in 2008, it was a couple of quick moves, and luckily no shots were fired. So that was a quick way to get out of something that could have potentially turned pretty damaging really fast. And let me ask you this. Would firing this type of laser, even if it's the one where you dazzle them without actually hurting it, be considered a first shot?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it could be. But the main point that you made is that you can sort of use the sort of razzle-dazzle instead of the I'll poke a hole in your ship function of the laser if it works as it's supposed to work. So I think it has it's multifunctional, and that's good. It's cheap, which we like and members of Congress will like with the sequestration and the budget crisis we're undergoing right now. So I think it'll be interesting to see how it actually plays out and what the tests. Now they're going to be doing tests, so what that will look like.
So even though nothing would technically be damaged, it could potentially be still considered a first shot. But something else to mention is that this technology is by no means perfect. It has a lot of problems, the first of which is the weather. Bad weather would affect it. So if there's raindrops, if there's smoke, if there's dust in the air, it will not work properly. Yep. Also, it's not powerful enough to take down fighter jet missiles. Anybody that puts a reflective face on their machines, it can actually confuse the laser. So it's not perfect. There's a lot of flaws in it. Yep. So what does it possibly mean that we are putting ourselves into a political posturing with Iran before the technology is actually ready for that kind of thing?
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. I mean, yeah, another thing, you need to have your the object that you're targeting in sight. So, as you mentioned, it's a cloudy day, it's dark, it's at night, I mean, all those sorts of things. There's certainly, and again, it's a prototype, so there's certainly a lot of things that you need to work the kinks out for. But what I think, yes, I think it's a signal. I think it's a signal, as I said, it's a signal saying, it's defensive, we're here, you can't skirt around, as you've done in the past. I think that we should continue to focus on diplomacy, but it gives us another tool in our toolkit for the types of really complicated negotiations we're now undergoing over there.
And they say it's still just about a year out from actually being fully functional, so that gives even more time possibly for diplomatic talks.
Exactly.
But the laser obviously gives the U.S. near limitless control over the skies. They can control their own drones because we do have by far the biggest range of drone technology, and also the stealth modes that we have is unlike anybody else. But at the same time, we can also shoot other people's technology down with these lasers. So do we have unprecedented control of the skies? And if we do, is that fair necessarily?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, our allies in the region, obviously, we need to make sure we're protecting them no matter what we're doing, and I think we're doing that, and this, again, is another tool in the toolbox to be able to do that. I don't know that you or I sitting here can know all of that, and a lot of this technology obviously is classified, and so I'm not sure about whether our adversaries have things that match us right now. But I do know, again, sort of to repeat, is that this is something new to us and something that will give us a leg up in the region and in the necessary diplomatic talks that need to continue to happen over there.
And finally, just talking about those diplomatic talks now, as I mentioned, you are a non-proliferation expert. What can we possibly do right now? That's not sanctions, that's not anything else. Now, in terms of diplomatic talks, what would we present or that they could present to get the ball rolling again in terms of these talks?
I mean, I think we just need to keep, I mean, it's sort of blasé. It's sort of what you would expect. Someone who believes in nonproliferation and believes that a war in Iran, I agree with the president, I agree with the military leaders, that a war in Iran in the region would be devastating. So I think we need to keep the door open, keep continuing to talk with our allies in the region, including Israel, and figure this out. But we do have another, I mean, I think maybe we'll be taken a little bit more seriously now by the Iranians.
Alexandra Toma, a nuclear non-proliferation expert and a Truman Fellow, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
The Navy announced plans April 8th to deploy the Laser Weapon System, or LAWS, to the 5th Fleet Area of Responsibility on board USS Ponce beginning in fiscal year 2014.
This technology is really important to the fleet so that what we can do is make the cost of delivering fire to an enemy affordable and to relieve ourselves of the need to rearm. Having a magazine that is essentially endless, because we can generate power as long as we've got generators able to be fueled, gives us, until the end of our fuel supply, the ability to generate energetic fires against an enemy, whether that's defensive or offensive.
LAWS provides ships with a scalable weapon system for use against unmanned aerial vehicles and small fast attack boats. The laser system has the ability to be used as a non-lethal deterrent, to dazzle enemy sensors, and to immobilize or destroy enemy targets. This provides commanders with a multi-tiered threat response from one system. After a successful at-sea test period aboard USS Dewey, where LAWS successfully engaged and destroyed 3 moving targets, the system will be more fully integrated into USS Ponce for its fiscal year 2014 deployment.
Now we want to make sure that it can be integrated fully. The power grid, the cooling grid, the location of the weapon system. Right now for the Ponce, we've already walked all that. We've walked the ship itself. That is all very achievable. There's no hurdles that we can't get through right now. So to us, that's the piece that we want to just prove out with the Ponce, and my colleague Admiral Eccles will talk about that. But again, we feel very confident on everything we've done thus far that it will prove out very successful.
In this animation, a laser beam is fired from a cannon on board a warship. It targets a drone, causing it to burst into flames and plummet into the ocean. That's the theory, and here is the practice. On the left, the laser firing. On the right, the drone being destroyed. This video has been released by the US Navy. It says this is a step towards transforming warfare. The prototype, which one official said has cost around $30 million to make, will be installed on USS Ponce, which is being used as a base in the Middle East. But the long-term cost is set to be a lot less. The laser is said to be able to fire as long as there is electricity, with each shot costing just $1. The Navy expects that one day incoming missiles will not be able to outmaneuver an accurate beam by travelling at the speed of light. However, there are drawbacks, according to congressional research, which says it could accidentally hit satellites or aircraft and can be affected by rain or fog.